All right, guys, so let's talk about profitability and everything around it. So first of all, let me actually show you a bit more history of the store. Let's just pull up an entire year. Let's just do from May to what was it, end of July here. Okay, that's a bit more. That's actually a bit more than a year, and you see that the store is very seasonal. And I'll first of all, I can also show you the profitability for the entire year. But in the beginning, we're going to start on a actually weekly basis, and that's because we actually track our profitability with a special report week by week, and we optimize on a weekly basis. Right? We see our margins at the end of every week. So actually, on every Friday, we check our margins, we check our gross margins, our net profit margins, our contribution margins, etc., all of our costs, and we adjust. Right? And we make conclusions and we make changes based on those weekly reports. Right? So what tool do I use actually for tracking profitability? I use Lifetimely. Again, I'm not affiliated with them, and I'm actually going to talk about the pros and cons of Lifetimely. They are a good app, so we tried quite a few in the beginning. So like, I don't know, if you literally in the Shopify app store, if you type in profitability, you're going to get a bunch of apps. Exactly. So Lifetimely is the one we use, but again, I'm sure a bunch of you are using maybe some of the other apps. A lot of them obviously are quite similar in terms of they obviously try to accomplish the same goal, and again, different price points and different pros and cons. So let's talk about some. Let's jump into our Lifetimely for one of our stores. So it's loading. And here you can see the profit, like the first dashboard in terms of our profitability, right? And this week we made 83K in sales. Out of that, 30K actually marketing costs, 45 in COGS, and just actually a net profit of 7K, right? So the profit margin here is actually not that high. And you can actually see there's some days where we're actually making a net profit margin. And I think this is the first kind of takeaway that I see is that, first of all, you don't have to be profitable every single day. Obviously, it's the average that matters, right? And we definitely see some days where we're not profitable, but that gets compensated by the days that we are much more profitable. And obviously, in the end, if we're profitable at the end of that time period, that's, of course, a good thing if you're optimizing for that, which most people are. Why I like Lifetimely, and also talking about some of the pros and cons, is, let me move my camera here a bit. They have integrations that are quite handy, right? So you actually integrate with Google Ads, Facebook Ads, TikTok Ads. Like you can see, we have those integrations. We actually even had Microsoft. We even ran some Bing ads, believe it or not, for like a couple of weeks at some point. So we could integrate even that in case that's something that's relevant for you. But the point is that once you're connected to all those marketing channels, right, the costs get pulled automatically, right? Because you can obviously imagine the challenge is that you spend money on Facebook or on TikTok or whatever, and you don't know exactly what your profit margin is, right? Unless, for example, again, so this is the big topic in terms of looking at cash flows versus kind of on an accrual basis, right? And what Lifetime does really well is that if you spend X dollars on Facebook, right, even if it didn't actually get booked off your credit card, right, because again, Facebook has different limits where you need to spend up to, like, let's say 1K, whatever you've unlocked before it actually deducts it from your bank account, right, from your credit card. Even if it hasn't deducted from your credit card, Lifetime will just attribute the exact dollar amount you spent that day because they're connected to your Facebook account and they see exactly how much you've spent, even if you haven't actually spent it yet in terms of cash flow. And that's really powerful because that way you can literally by minute track your profitability, right? And like you see just now, it refreshed, as well as it just, or maybe not minute by minute, but like definitely on I would say 15-minute basis, you can really track your profitability. And it's actually pretty similar with the other settings. If you play around with the costs and expenses, what it does is it automatically takes the COGS from your product page, right? So in your product page, obviously you have the price, but you also put the COGS, right, in the product page settings. And Lifetimely will take that as your COGS, as your cost of goods sold, if you do not provide any further information. However, in the settings, you can override the COGS that are in your Shopify store with the COGS that you provide directly to Lifetimely. And that way you can, have even more accurate cost of goods and gross margins, right? In case you have to, right? To be honest, if you're just really organized with the COGS settings in your Shopify product pages, then everything will happen automatically, right? And beyond that, again, you can integrate with other providers also in terms of, again, here ShipStation, but also other logistics providers. If not, then you manually put how much money, for example, you spend in terms of fulfillment or shipping per order on average. and then it factors that in. It also automatically factors in discounts that you make on, that you provide to your customers, any refunds, anything of that nature gets automatic. Everything you can pull directly from Shopify, it pulls directly from Shopify. So actually a few of, let's go back to the income statement. So first of all, lifetimely, you can create this beautiful chart versus a table format. And here there's also two different formats. There's the kind of breakdown, which is more of like the income statement, like day by day. It gives you the breakdown between sales, COGS, marketing, contribution margin, net profit margin, and the tiles. The tiles was like kind of like how they started off with, and they kind of shifted to the breakdown, which is more of an income statement. And to be honest, is just, I think for me, I prefer that, right? Because you can actually download this into an Excel, and that's what we do every week to create the report that I'm going to show you now. Why? And this is now coming to the negatives of Lifetimely, to be honest, because I've only said good things about it, and generally I do like the app. But the negatives is that I actually think this income statement, you cannot customize it. And for example, it doesn't have a gross profit line item, which always bothers me, right? It just gives you the sales and it gives you the COGS and then the contribution margin, but I want the gross margin as well. Also, what I would say, right, is again, for this store in this week, right, just as an example, we're making a 10% contribution margin, right? I think as a very strong target is to be above 20%. We have certain weeks where we make above 20%, but we also have other weeks where we're break even or even negative, right? As I said, not all days are positive. Also, not all weeks are positive, right? Of course, the average should be positive, right? If you want to have a profitable business. But I think from what my experience and seeing a bunch of stores and also our stores, if you're above a 20% consistently, that's actually very, very strong. And if you're below, I would say 5%, that's obviously, you're kind of on the knife's edge in terms of actually being unprofitable. If something screws up, if something goes wrong, right, you don't want to be too close to that break-even point. And of course, it's also about the consistency of you being able to hold those profit margins over time consistently and not fluctuate too much of those profit margins, which again, I've discussed in other videos as well, right? That this again all links into, for example, diversifying your marketing channels, not being too dependent on CPC paid ads, where it's all kind of ROAS driven, right? And if your ROAS drops from one day to the next, your profitability will also swing madly, right? Hey, before you bounce, consider subscribing to our channel, but only if you've actually enjoyed the video and found at least a few valuable things for your Shopify store. Also, check out our free Shopify app, Trackidex. We have a link in the description below. We're developing new features literally every day, and we're also excited to actually hear your feedback on some of the next features we should develop. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.